Okay, hello, this is Clemens, and in this video I want to do something spontaneous, and I have currently no plan how the video will look like, but I thought I will start a complete new session from scratch. So currently I just sat down and still have no plan what we're going to do, but I have previously already fooled around a little with a piano, so I guess this video we will just pop up some sort of stock piano and record. I had this idea to play longer sustained lower notes and then unsustained on the upper range, more higher keys in contrast. So eventually we could try approach something like this, and we will find some scale or tonic settings that we are not aware of yet. And in the end, I will also publish the video, just the song alone, the composition. And as I previously said, I was fooling around with a piano. Maybe it will be some sort of more arty style today, with longer reverb. I had this precasti emulation response sound, and so eventually this will be more reverberated piano sound, on piano only track. Okay, now let's look into it. I have this shortcut to open Logic with a new template. This is what I'm going to do here. And what I especially wanted to do is create a raw MIDI track. So I wanted to show this for a long time in a video in more detail. And I have to use Logic here as I'm a Logic user, Logic 9 since years. And so this is the DAW I will be using for this video. And this whole raw technique, so using the recording the actual playing, including this black keys, key switchings, for example, and recording also the output, the result of AutoTonic at the same time. So it's two recordings, like using with recording a vocal track uncompressed and the compressed result eventually with EQ and reverb, etc. So this is a common technique used in many studios, or many people do, that they record the raw backup track as well. And we can do this with AutoTonic too, and that makes sense because you then later can decide to reharmonize at certain points, etc. So you don't have the final result. You can still change the initial raw, like with taking pictures, so you can decide what the exposure will be, or how, in this case, the scale will look like. So yeah, for all non-Logic users, please excuse, but I have to explain it here, and I will always explain what I'm doing. So now, for example, I'm going to create a new track, and it's an external. No, it's first we're going to set up the piano, and I'm using this sort of software instrument track here that I'm going to create and assign my output to the sum key, so it will run through the mixer. We also have to unmute the channels here then. And so now I'm going to load some stock piano, as I like this a lot. And let's create the Bosendorfer Hall here and Bösendorfer. But we are going to change it to the Yamaha Grand, as I love this as well. Okay. And I have currently now both signals, as you can hear. So it's that what usually happens, that the DAW, in Logic we have this environment here, in the DAW the both signals will be received from the DAW, so the unprocessed and the processed result of AutoTonic. Now in my case, I urge everyone to create sophisticated setups. I have these switches here using the software DAW MIDI translator in the background, and I can switch here, for example. We have to change this here as well.
AutoTonic only, Raw MIDI off.
AutoTonic only, Raw MIDI off. So for example, now the signals will be only the transposing result. And I can then also change
Raw MIDI in, AutoTonic off.
Raw MIDI in, AutoTonic off. So it means that I'm getting also the black signals into my DAW, and then I have this preset that
AutoTonic und Raw MIDI an.
AutoTonic and Raw MIDI on. It means basically that I'm now going to have both signals, the raw and the processed, the transposed result going into my DAW. So this is basically, it is only what I have here. This is some sort of MIDI, the Apple script mixture that automatically switches the incoming ports in my DAW. So I'm using only one incoming port that I called DAW bridge. And here in advance, there will be decided which in ports are going into this DAW bridge. And in this case of both signals will come from the keyboard as well as from AutoTonic. And in case only AutoTonic, then of course only AutoTonic will be routed to the DAW bridge. Or in case I want only raw MIDI signals, then only the raw signals will come into this DAW bridge. Otherwise, I could also, of course, cable this every time manually. So I could, for example, have my input keyboard. I only want to have my raw signals, then I'm only going to attach my raw signals. In Cubase or Fruity Loops, it will eventually look different. So you don't have this cabling solution, but you have input ports that you can select, etc. So you can select, like in a list, like in AutoTonic, which input ports are the ones that you want to receive in your DAW. But in this case, in Logic, it is some sort of old school cabling. And yeah, as said, I could also, this is like the setting which I would use this here. It's the
Raw MIDI in, AutoTonic off.
Raw MIDI in, AutoTonic off. So it means it's only the direct keyboard signal here. But otherwise, I would also have, if I'm using other keyboards, then I would also have to cable the, for example, the X key 2 here. Then I would have only the raw signals directly from these two keyboards. So this is the raw only situation, raw MIDI signals into my DAW. But if we revert this now, then we could also make the AutoTonic signals only. And in this case, in AutoTonic, I have my MIDI port is the output port. The only MIDI output port that I'm using is this AutoTonic Bridge 2. So this is the signal, the port that I'm using for the transposed result. And then I could, for example, in my DAW, connect the AutoTonic Bridge 2 output into my input. So only the transposed signal will reach the DAW. This would be my setting here.
AutoTonic only, Raw MIDI off.
AutoTonic only, Raw MIDI off. So it's only the AutoTonic signals. And then there's, of course, the setting that is especially useful for using Raw MIDI backup tracks. This is this one here.
AutoTonic und Raw MIDI an.
AutoTonic and Raw MIDI on. So it means it's both signals now. So it would be the signal from the transposed part, so from AutoTonic output, as well as the initial hardware signals. So for example, it would be the depther here as well as my X key. So this would be a much more, inconvenient way to always route these, set up these cabling routings. And for this case, I'm using the BOEM software. It's this software where you can then, for example, if I'm switching, for example here, then I'm
AutoTonic only, Raw MIDI off.
Now it hears
Raw MIDI in, AutoTonic off.
Okay, so you get the point. So this is something that automatically switches my my MIDI routing in the background. So I can decide then what signals are going into the DAW. But for this, of course, I have to then use the result part. So it's like using a sort of patch bay. You know, it's like using cabling. Makes much sense as well with MIDI. So in this case now,
AutoTonic und Raw MIDI an.
AutoTonic and Raw MIDI on. I'm using both signals, and this is what I want to do for this video today. So you can see I'm pressing one key and there are two signals. One is the E and one is G, so it's both the transposed and the untransposed result. As we can see here in our DAW, in AutoTonic, it's E and it is G as a result. So these are the signals. It's one action, but two results. And this is what I want to have in my DAW. And as you can see here in the monitor of Logic, the thing is that currently are both signals on channel 1. And what's especially useful when working with raw and with processed and unprocessed signals, so raw MIDI and transposed result MIDI, that you're using two different channels, because it's much easier to separate the signals in your DAW if they are on different channels. So for this, in AutoTonic you have this scroll wheel here, and you can set it to that the output, usually this auto, to auto, and auto means that the incoming part will be the outcoming part. MIDI channel, sorry, it's not about ports, it's about MIDI channels. So input channel 2 will be output channel 2. But in this case now, we're going to set it to channel and then 2. So even if the signals are coming in channel 1, they will be then routed to channel 2 as output. And we can see this now in the monitor here. If we now press a key, the E again and G, let's clear this as well first. And if we now hit the E, then we can see that the G is now that the output is now on channel 2. The input is channel 1 E, as we can see here, E, and the output is channel 2 on G. So it transposes, not just transposes the signals, but also converts it to a different MIDI channel. What is especially useful when using DAW for recording both the transposed and the untransposed signal. So this is about the initial approach. You're opening AutoTonic and first make sure that you're going to route the input signal to a different output channel. So this is point number 1. As well, now in AutoTonic, you have to make sure that only channel 1 signals, and make sure that your keyboards are really working always on channel 1 by default. And the channel 1 signals must be filtered as well in AutoTonic. This makes much sense also as well later. So we're going to set, there's this slider here as well, and which make sure that it is on channel 1, which is by default when opening AutoTonic, and set to filter mode. Okay, so we have 2 points now. We're checking that the input signals in AutoTonic are only on channel 1 allowed. Everything else will be filtered. If it would be on through here, so there are 3 options, omni, through and filter. Omni would mean it's everything, every signal on every channel will be accepted. Through means that if the channel is not matching the selection here, so if I'm even putting channel 1 signals, but the slider is set to channel 2, then the signal will go through without a change. Okay? And if it's a match, so if channel input signals 1 are set to channel slider 1, then the signals will be considered for transposing. Otherwise, they will go through, okay? And filter means that if the signals do not match the channel number, then the signals will be filtered out. So they won't be transposed or considered for to be routed out of AutoTonic again. And this makes sense as well, because now if anywhere on your computer on this part that are selected as input parts, channel 2 signal will occur, then AutoTonic will not consider it somehow. And this avoids a lot of feedback loops, etc. So two things to summarize again. You set it to filter out to channel 1 only as input. Then you're going to make sure that AutoTonic transposes the signals or outputs it only to channel 2 or to another channel. And in AutoTonic, you have not only your usual input-output settings, but you're also using an external bus MIDI. It's basically another ISC driver or MIDI port. On Windows it's not ISC, but it's another virtual MIDI port that AutoTonic uses as input, which we're going to use in the DAW later for sidechaining or sending back signals to AutoTonic. And there are these audio MIDI settings on Mac, for example, and you would usually go to this MIDI Studio. If it is not opened at first, then you can find it at by pressing Command 2, or by going to the Audio MIDI Setup menu and then to Fenster MIDI Studio, Show MIDI Studio, and then it will appear here. But usually, because by default there you only see your audio settings. And in the MIDI Studio, you really have to go to the ISC driver setting panel, and there you can then add certain parts, which I won't do now because this reinitialized all the MIDI going on in the background. But there's usually where you create your parts, and usually you will really require only the part that you're sending the AutoTonic results to, and that then will be grabbed in the DAW. So in my case, I'm using, it's called AutoTonic Bridge 2. So I'm also having AutoTonic Bridge 1, which are the signals going into AutoTonic, bussing or combining several hardware gears, instruments, hardware devices. And AutoTonic Bridge is then the part I'm sending AutoTonic, the transposed signals from AutoTonic to. And then I have this external bus, and it's basically the sidechain or the part for all secondary operations that I'm going to use with AutoTonic. Okay, long talk, or how it is called, long story short. This is basically where you set up your MIDI drivers, and I'm using also this external input here. So it's not only one input in AutoTonic, I have two inputs, even though currently the external bus part does not do anything. So these signals are coming from AutoTonic Bridge 1, and external bus is selected as input, but there is no input going on here currently. But we can change this as well at any time here. For example, if we're going to create an external MIDI track in our DAW, in this case I'm using Logic, of course. So it's called externals MIDI track in Logic, and there's some sort of new track that appears that you can then customize, of course. And AutoTonic, okay, AutoTonic, there we go. And so this is the track basically, and we really want to make sure now that we understand that we have to separate in the DAW our virtual instrument, the piano one, that must be on a different MIDI channel than the signals that are going to AutoTonic. So we have basically two tracks that we are using now. We have the track which we are using for the raw MIDI recording. This is this one here, and then we have the track where the instrument and the transposed signals are going on. And we can use both tracks for different approaches. We can use this one, for example, the raw MIDI track, not only for recording the initial signals from our hardware, but we can also use this part for sending signals from this part into AutoTonic back again. Because it's the initial raw source, it's like playing on the keyboard, so it would make sense for later reharmonization or for like initial triggering AutoTonic. It's the same signals as AutoTonic sees from our hardware that can be routed through this part. Let me show you for an example. If we create a new empty MIDI region here, and usually use these tracks, by the way, if you're using external MIDI gear. If you have some external synthesizer, then how does the DAW communicate with this external synthesizer? You of course have to send MIDI signals through this port, through this MIDI track by playback to the external MIDI synthesizer, and these are these tracks for. And in this case, we're not using an external synthesizer but AutoTonic. So you have to also make sure that here you select as the outgoing port this external bus. Okay, so now this track is directly connected to AutoTonic, as AutoTonic also has this external bus as sidechain input. Okay, now, so we have now connected our external track this sidechain track here to AutoTonic. And if we create now a MIDI region here, and in this MIDI region, we have selected that the external bus is our destination, and that the signals are going on channel 1. We don't need program change here. Okay, and if we're going now to the MIDI region, put in here certain MIDI notes, then we can directly communicate to AutoTonic. And in this case, I have to also make sure that the MIDI signal is going out right. So here, if I'm going to press notes now on my piano roll, you can already see that AutoTonic is directly reacting to it. And this is what we want. So for example, I could create here let's make it a little bigger here, yes. And I could then, for example, position black key switchings. So I have one here, and let's make one here, for example. And if I'm playing back now, or let's also make this a little more, okay. And you can see now these are black key signals. So it would be like initially pressing the black keys on my hardware. And if I now play back this here, then you can see that AutoTonic always switches key or makes header switchings when these positions are reached. So it's like some sort of how do you call this? Session markers, or you not only have to the chance, you can also position these keys on these notes on white keys. So this would be triggering AutoTonic on the white keys then. And this is exactly what this track is useful for. Okay, so we got the basics here. We can do this then. Now, we really want to play something here today. And when you set up this raw MIDI and instrument, we haven't heard a single sound yet. So let's activate both of these. And always make sure that the selection in Logic is that way, that the selection is on the virtual instrument. So our initial action goes to the virtual instrument channel, not the other one. If you would select this one, then you would cause a feedback loop. This wouldn't be the thing that you want to do. You can see that you are going on messing notes. So you really have to make sure that you're selecting, that you're recording to the channel that you want to record to. So it's this case the piano track. But also rack enabled is the other track, the raw MIDI track. And as we have now two signals in the background going on, let's open the MIDI monitor here for a moment. And let's check for the sources. So we don't want to have all sources, and we then want to only see the AutoTonic output as well as the AutoTonic input. Okay, so it's only these two parts that we're monitoring now. When I press a key now, whoops, then I have a lot of signals. So I press one key, one note down signal, then we can see we have two signals going on. One on channel 1 and one on channel 2, as explained previously. And this is because there is set that the output of AutoTonic is going to channel 2. What Logic does now is listen to both signals, of course, but it separates them. How does it do that? There's a little hidden function in AutoTonic, in Logic. And you have to go to the project settings, so not this global setting, but the project settings, and then go to Aufnahme, Record, to the record project settings. And there's this check mark here, this Mehrspurenaufnahme nach Eventkanal trennen. It means basically multi-channel separation for event signals, event channel signals. Just Google it. Eventually I will link it or show you in English here. This is the setting that is really important if you have selected multiple MIDI tracks at once, rack enabled. If you have rack enabled multiple MIDI tracks. So only by enabling multiple MIDI tracks, you will also be able to separate incoming MIDI signals on different channels. And the clue lies in this little setting here. I know every DAW looks different, but this is how it works for Logic since years and since ages, since Logics exist. And you have to make sure that the MIDI channel for the virtual instrument, the MIDI piano, is channel 2. It's channel 2 output of AutoTonic and channel 2 input and output operation on for this virtual instrument, for the piano. It's not the input, it's also the output, but of course. And channel 1 is the setting for the raw MIDI check. So the difference in the DAW that you have to really make sure is that both tracks are selected and rack-enabled and that they operate on different MIDI channels. So we have MIDI channel 2 for the piano and we have MIDI channel 1 for the AutoTonic track, raw MIDI track. Okay, so basically now we're done with setup and we're going to play now. I'm sorry that it is so lengthy and complicated for most of you people, but you really get to learn this stuff and you will benefit so much from it. It's like with audio, all the people are learning about EQs and compressors and how they are emulated and little details, etc. But MIDI is so important and interesting as well. Okay, now we're going to look, first of all, let's summarize. So you have AutoTonic. The most important things: open up AutoTonic, make sure that the input is set to filter only your signals, in this case channel 1. So the setting is set it to filter and only listen to the your hardware gear's channel, in this case channel 1. Then make sure that it transposes it to a different channel, in this case it's the most easiest to set it to channel 2, and make sure that this little check mark here is selected, so it's the channel setting. And in AutoTonic as well, make sure that you have created another sidechain port or external bus port in the background and that this one is selected as well. So these are the settings for AutoTonic, done. And in your DAW, make sure that you have two MIDI tracks, and one uses a virtual instrument and the other one is completely plain or has nothing on it, but is capable to send signals from there to external ports. And the virtual instrument port has to have a different channel than the other one. So to summarize the DAW settings, use two MIDI based channels, and one channel is the MIDI software synthesizer, MIDI software instrument generating channel that has to match the same channel setting as the output of AutoTonic. In this case it's MIDI channel 2, and then we have to this is also the one that we have to record onto, and then we have in the background going on another MIDI channel that also listens to the incoming MIDI signals but does not do anything and records on the initial MIDI hardware channel, in this case channel 1. And in this case in Logic we have to make sure that the setting Mehrspurenaufnahmen nach Eventkanal trennen, this setting multi-channel separation for event channels is activated. So only by that AutoTonic separates MIDI channel signals to different tracks. Okay, now we're done with the setting. I can't believe that it's difficult to explain. It's easy to know and go through this fast if you need it. But I really want to show you something. From now on we won't do tech talk, so it's more about the result from now. And we have now all freedom. And we're going to look for some nice tonic scale setting here. Eventually I first fooled around a little with this, for example, a pentatonic, I think it is. It also reveals if the exclamation mark is shown here, then there is a record for the scale setting. So if I change the scale setting, for example, then there is no exclamation mark. That means there's no setting, there's no record found in the database. And if there is this exclamation mark here, then we can see that it matches a setting. In this case, it's the major pentatonic, and we have details here as well, etc. And we want to just fooled around today with this and lock this to the header here. You can also use the left and right arrow keys to lock something, okay? And we really want to start with something. And I'm also going to use my expression pedal here on the... Okay, so if you're just wondering why the notes are sustained, This is because I'm using the expression pedal from DAW. And eventually not start on C, start something with more unusual, interesting. Just imagine now the harmonic content. It's now much more difficult to play for a regular player. So it's much more unknown harmonic content now. Okay, and what I thought it's funny, as I said in the beginning, is what's interesting. For example, playing deeper, lower content with sustained pedal activated notes, and then just fooling around a little on the higher end with more short notes and accentuated. I just want to try take some random take here. If it doesn't work out, we will redo. So I really have to calm down now. And we will use, for now, only this one setting. So there's no black key switching here right now. We eventually will do later with the raw MIDI recording. But for now, only let's really record doing something new here. For this, just let's rec enable, and get into it. We'll try do something like, we now talked so long, not sure if I can get something done here now. Sustain pedal. Okay, now let's just take it, okay? And as we can see now in the arrange window of Logic, that we have now 2 recordings. And if we take now a look at them, then we can see that one even contains black key signals, as you can see here. So this one is the transposed, the result recording, and the other one is the raw MIDI recording. So we have really now separated them into raw MIDI and the transposed result MIDI. Result MIDI, raw MIDI. And this is only containing white key signals, the raw MIDI. And we have now the freedom to, for example, if we mute the raw MIDI, then we have the freedom to replay the transposed result. So the result will just play back the actual playing, what we've recorded, would be the usual way. But we can also for example, mute this one and play back the initial raw recording. So if we're now going to play this back, like with ghost hands, this is what everyone seeks for. AutoTonic now automatically plays what I initially played. Make this a bit lower so I can talk here. So AutoTonic just plays back what I initially inputted into the computer by hitting these hardware keys. And this means, for example, we would have now the freedom to either change single notes, up or down, etc. But this is not what we really want to, what we are interested in here today. What I thought what's interested in is to have such a recording, and we will leave it as it is now. I won't correct it like to overdo it or something. I will leave it like it is right now. So it's what we've got, this is what we have. And we will just delete the result. So we only gonna use the raw MIDI recording here for today. And what we're going to do now with it is we add an additional external boost track. So it's the same. I could just copied the same track, or duplicated it, it's called in AutoTonic. And on this track now, we can then now record black key switchings. So we don't have to. So we have this playing here, and it's only in this scale tonic setting. So we can only listen it to currently to this scale tonic setting. But if we would now, for example, change the tonic scale setting, then we could in real time also switch the harmonic content of the already recorded recording. If you now change, for example, the tonic of this header, so we have two different headers. One uses D sharp here, and the second header uses F sharp. Now we would have the freedom to switch in real time how the transposing of the initial recording looks like. Let's just play it back here. And now let me show you what I mean. So you can see I can really, in real time, switch. I can in real time change the transposing that I initially done with AutoTonic. And I could change everything here. I could change the tonic, the scale settings, the pitch, which makes sense as well sometimes. So it's not only two important modifiers, tonic and scale, it's also the pitch compensation, which you can find in the bottom here. So it determines where and which height the signals are. It's just a linear compensation. And yeah, just let's play back now this MIDI file, and then I'm going to decide in real time here now what we're going to do with the harmonic content, how it really will be outputted. So we have our initial key. Now let's switch. Let's switch back. Maybe let's try something different. With every key switching, with every chord a different key switching. So this basically creates a new structure through our whole song. Depending on the actual playing, we can decide that way what mood, which harmonic content the actual recording is positioned in. Okay, now I've just played back this in Logic, but there's a function that you can recall everything that you have done. So we just recovered everything that was inputted here right now. And again, as we have enabled both tracks, there is now the transposed result, including the key switching. We won't need this, get rid of it. And we have done this track. As you can see there, it's very small. Maybe let's zoom a little here. These are only the key switching. It's only what I pressed here. And we have recorded this as initial raw MIDI as well. So we have now, if we're playing back both at the same time, then we have now included, and what I really wanted to do is to have this one in the beginning, so whether we are stopping in the later recording and restart from beginning, then it will initialize the initial header. So this is the same recording now, but we now also have included these key switchings that we just made. So you can hear now it changed to a different tonic here. So it really, we have only two different settings now currently. So with these 3 headers, I've set the first one to the pentatonic, which shows one D sharp, and the second one uses F sharp. So the only difference is here that it's sort of different tonic, modulating up from D sharp to F sharp. It's 1, 2, 3 semi-steps, half steps up. Okay, and this is all we do. We changed between these 2 settings, and then we have also the this other variation, and I've done a few switches to there as well. And we have recorded this now as well. So if you play it back, then we have the key switchings included. And this is really what I wanted to show you, that you have the possibility to change afterwards everything you've done before. It's like using audio plugins. You can apply a compressor, but still can change it later if you're not happy with the result. So it's non-destructive. It does not change. It's not destructive to the source material, to the initial playing. I could even change this track to a completely different world. For example, if I mute only the key switchings, let's make also the key switchings here red, for example, or sort of reddish, and the playing blue. And I could do so many things now. I could solo over it, for example, if I start now. And it will automatically key change, and I will be able to just fool around on white keys, and the harmonic content will always match. So this would be an option, or otherwise I could change the key switching, so I could change the harmonic context. So if I'm, for example, muting now the key switchings that we've done here, then I could also try out completely different harmonic context here. You get the point. So I can not only in real time apply changes, I can record them or set them manually. There's so many options. But the important thing is to understand how it works, basically. So you're recording not the final result as you would do on your software instrument track, but you're recording the raw MIDI, the actual hardware action that reaches the computer. So not the transposed result, but you're recording the initial source in your DAW, and then prepare it with this external boost track in the DAW to resend it to AutoTonic, and eventually also include some key switchings here. So you can include key switchings or later changes, and this gives you so much possibilities. And it's an advanced and really sophisticated thing, but it's so rewarding and so cool to do, and you can have so much fun and create new pieces, arty music, or even orchestral compositions. Do this with multiple instruments or chord triggerings. It's really, creativity is your only limitation. I urge you to try and not give up. Those who will keep searching will succeed, I think. Okay. Thank you. I think this was one of my longest videos, in my opinion. And I will also bounce this now down and create a sort of track that we can listen to on YouTube, and also link this tutorial video then on this video on the piano track. Okay, thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't yet, and yeah, please support my project through a purchase. I will really appreciate. There are not many people, I think, who are working with such crazy content, but I would love to keep continue, and your support, your financial support could allow me to keep working on what I love. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.